no, you cooked. Let me clean. And she goes, perhaps you could go out to the yard. I'd like you to meet someone. I'll be out and join you in just a minute.
He's going to head up to the yard then.
Grain comes sort of skipping along behind you. And you see, do me a perception check. On a 14, that's pretty good. You see quite a few kids out there. You see one sort of plump, dark-haired human, maybe human, possibly maybe a little bit of elf blood in him, walking around, and seems to be, this yard. You, in your mind, of course, you were picturing like a yard in Elevation Pit with grass and trees, but this is Falcon's Crest, in the heart of the knot. It basically is just a bare stone ground. There's one sort of outcropping that the kids seem to be running and playing on. That's some type of base or fort or something that they are pretending to have. There really aren't many toys or outdoor type things out here. As I said, you see this one sort of little heavy set human / little bit elven boy walking around, sort of seem to pick up and examine rocks and place them back down. And some other kids up there on the outcropping of rock. And sort of over at the far end of the yard, one girl catches your eye. Seems to catch Grain's eye as well. It's hard to distinguish what her racial background might be, as she seems to have features of a lot of different races that you've become familiar with. She has sort of darker skin, and sort of a heavier build, but has what look like elven ears and sort of those almond-shaped eyes, characteristic of an elf. Sort of broad features otherwise, too small, just tiny little tusks from her bottom lip. She has cotton candy pink hair that is tied in cornrows across the top of her head. But what you noticed more than anything, she has a large wooden sword in her hands that she's wielding like a two-handed greatsword. And you realize she is actually quite good. She's probably only 11 or 12, but she maneuvers this wood here in Falcon's Crest, probably a treasure for anyone. It's almost like a 2x4 that she is sort of shaped into this large greatsword. It's almost as tall as she is, almost 5 feet long, and swings it around with skill and deftness that you've rarely seen. And as you're looking at it, Grain sort of looks as well. Ariana comes out to your side and she goes, That's who I'd like you to meet. That's Bethany. Shall we go over?
Sort of like a bit lost in like a sort of daydream almost. He sort of snaps out of it. Yeah.
And you walk over, your sort of towering form, and as you're walking that direction, Grain sort of anticipates where you're going and runs ahead and sort of starts barking and playfully playing as, the monster for her to sort of swing at. She is sort of shocked at first to see a dog, but Grain immediately is endearing, and she quickly gets the game that is happening as Grain sort of playfully growls and leaps to one side and sort of, dodges her attacks. And as you get over there, your form towering over her, she's only probably 5'1", so you're a good 1.5 feet taller than her easily. Ariana introduced you, goes, Bethany, I would like you to meet Mr. Luck. He's here for reading lessons. And Bethany sort of turns around, sort of quick as a whip, with a sort of angry expression on her face, and kind of then looks at you, and then looks up at you, and sort of at the width of you, and then looks to Ariana, who is almost eye to eye to her, and just goes, I don't care. Warriors don't have to read. And I checked. There's plenty of the Talon Guard who don't read either. And even if they did, then I just go off an adventure. I know why you brought him in here. Look, he seems to be done just fine. And then she turns back around and goes back to swinging her sword.
As he sort of chuckles a little. Quite a few months ago, I would have thought the same.
So,
I've seen more adventures than you could possibly imagine. I have fought bears double my size. I have seen dragons fly from the sky. I have stared them down. I have been through the vice.
When you say you've been through the vice, she swings around. Nuh-uh.
Mm-hmm. Spider tigers.
Her eyes sort of widen. Really?
Crystal worms.
Really?
Vortex crawlers.
And she starts looking you over, and she goes, do you have any scars?
He sort of moves his hair back that sort of bit down and sort of shows off his signature.
Big bear claw scar. And she just, her mouth sort of drops open. And then she sort of remembers herself. Still doesn't mean I have to learn to read. And sort of turns around and starts playing with Grain again.
But I'm just saying, there's been a few occasions when reading could have saved me a lot of time, and maybe I could have helped a few more people.
Yeah, but you still got plenty of treasure, right? She sort of says over her shoulder.
No. I'm an adventurer who doesn't seek treasure.
She sort of, what kind of adventure is that?
Well, I like helping people.
Oh. You're a paladin.
Oh, no. I'm much more cooler. As he pulls out like his hunting knife, and like not obviously, but just like sort of on his thumb, sort of just and lights up his hunting dagger with fire.
That gets her attention. Whoa. Yeah, paladins don't do that. It's always that glowing golden shit. Oh, and then she realizes she's cursed in front of Ariana. And I know I'll put the money into the bank. Ariana at this point just sort of goes, hey, I'm not going to force you, dear. but we're going to be inside learning to read. And it's time for our lesson. Lessons, everyone. And you see the playground pretty much start to clear. Bethany sort of stays put. Do you call Grain to come with you, or let Grain stay with her?
He'll let Grain stay with her. Grain seems to have a good taste.
Okay.
Of like in good people. As he sort of like lets off the fire, sort of flips the dagger, sort of so he's holding the blade. You can keep this.
Ariana suddenly goes, and before Ariana can say anything, she takes it and sort of waves it back and forth.
Be careful.
Oh, I'm careful. Sort of gives you the thumbs up, and you guys head inside. Once you head inside, you see the children sort of split into two groups. The one sort of plump, dark-haired boy sort of goes over to one side of the room, where Ariana sort of brings you over to the other. There's a nice sort of rug set up there, and you see the kids sort of all gather around in a circle. And as you walk over, there's sort of a big gap for you to be able to sit down in. And like I said, you see at this point, about half the kids seem to go do other activities, and Iska walks over to this other group and goes, well, who wants to learn how to play some music? We'll go upstairs and I can show you guys how to play music. And about 3/4 of them go up, a few of them stay down, and you sitting in this circle, this giant man sits around with Ariana and these kids and starts the basics, starts to learn letters. And you know your letters somewhat. You know what your letters look like. I mean, you can recognize that things are words, with your intelligence, but just never necessarily learned how to sound out that this shape makes this sound, and when you put it together with these other shapes that you know, become words. And Ariana very much likes to teach sort of writing at the same time as reading. So in a very open way, sort of starts instructing everyone through their letters. And after about the first 20 or 30 minutes goes, okay, now everyone, it's time to help and check your buddy. Everyone buddy up. And you see all the kids sort of quickly buddy up. But there is this one tiny little girl. I mean, obviously a halfling, but even for a halfling, you almost wonder whether she might have Pixie in her background. Probably no more than 2 feet tall. She wears these rectangular sort of like old lady glasses that they have sort of bent the arms of, so they'll actually fit her tiny little frame. And she sort of looks around, and a little intimidated person. She's standing up, and I mean, she's barely bigger than Grain. Sort of walks over and kind of goes, I guess I'm your buddy. She has her sort of voice kind of squeaks up at you, and she starts looking at your paper where you've started to make your letters, and she hands hers sort of shakily over to you.
I guess I am, as he sort of has to, because even when sitting down, he probably
sitting down, yeah. She's still only, I mean, literally, wouldn't be up to like your mid body. So, she and she looks at the paper and looks at you, and she's a little bit scared, and she looks at the paper and she looks at you and she goes, Mr. Locke, your B's backwards. And she sort of hands you your paper back.
So it is.
And she hands you her, and she sort of points at her. She goes, it's supposed to be like this.
Ah,
I know, because it's the second letter in my name. I'm Abigail.
nice to meet you. I'm Luck, Goldheart.
Hi. And she sort of puts her hand out, and literally her whole hand would probably could shake a finger. And she then, once you sort of introduce yourself and you correct your B, she sort of starts talking, and she seems quite sharp. She goes, Abigail's easy because it starts with AB, and those are the first two letters, and see A and B, and you just put them together, and then you have to do the I. But that's not too hard because it's pretty fun, almost like Luck a little bit. But when she starts running away, she immediately sort of catches herself and slows down, and she goes, "Oh, do you know I yet? Have you gotten that far?"
Is that the one before or after that J thing?
It's before. It's H, then I, then J.
Got it.
And then's K, which is the end of your name.
Right.
And pretty quickly, just because of your height difference, you find Abigail sort of in your lap, looking over your paper.
So we need fan art of that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And about that time, Grain comes trotting over, followed by Bethany. And there's still a gap beside you. Okay. I guess warriors can read. But only if you show me how. She points at you. And Ariana just kind of shuts up, and gives you a nod.
Deal.
And you sit there with a tiny little pixie halfling girl in your lap and a cotton candy pink, little bit of everything girl sitting by your side. Grain curled up. And you start to learn to read.
You realize you've broken the cute button at this point, right?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
broken.
But I'm
Broken.
not done yet.
Oh.
As that familiar moment washes over you, Luck Goldheart, I would like you to add a point back to your sanity score. And that is where we're going to end today's session.